and welcome to the Richmond Public Library. This is Meldon Jenkins Jones. I'm the law librarian, and this is being presented to you by the Law Library and Get Lit, our literacy program for the teens and kids of all ages, actually. The Lit Chicks Read and the Beamer programs. And tonight we are celebrating Black History Month, and we have with us Rita Daniels. Rita Daniels became fascinated with the life of Harriet Tubman after she learned that she is Harriet Tubman's great-great-great-grandniece. And Harriet Tubman was an iconic woman. Rita loved her heroism and is proud to be related to such a phenomenal, iconic woman with her strong legacy. Harriet Tubman's struggle as an enslaved person is why Rita wants her gift never to go unrecognized or forgotten. In Auburn, New York, where Harriet Tubman lived for 52 years, Rita was born to Milton and Geraldine Copes Daniels. Rita has 6 sisters and 2 brothers and is the 4th born. Rita has 2 adult children, Ronald and Rishana, and 4 grandchildren, Kiara, Kaylin, Mia, and Amia. Rita has earned both her master's degree in education and a bachelor's degree in human resources, cum laude, at Trident University International. Rita's goal is to continue this legacy through her Harriet Tubman Learning Center. The Learning Center is a literacy program that includes robotics, youth entrepreneurial classes, and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, including cultural art programs provided to the underserved and underprivileged students. Many people are not aware that it is a known fact that Harriet Tubman died at the age of 92 as an illiterate person. Illiteracy is problematic, and it is Rita's goal to combat literacy with the help of the public. She realizes that she can't do it alone and therefore needs people who care about our failing educational systems. So we need to step up to the plate and get involved. And that's one of the reasons why we're presenting Rita Daniels here this evening. After Harriet Tubman managed to escape the severe beatings and humiliation of slavery herself, she put her life on the line repeatedly to help others seek freedom. Tubman's entire life consisted of struggles and persistence, whether she was fighting on behalf of enslaved people, fighting for the Union Army during the Civil War, or fighting for women's rights. She could proudly boast, "I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." So without any further ado, I'm going to present to you Rita Daniels.
Well, thank you, Meldon, for having me today. I have been looking forward to speaking to you about your literacy program as well. I have a literacy program, and I was reading all the information about what you have, and you're working with young student entrepreneurs probably. And so I can just say that I look forward to working with you guys even further down the road. I do have a presentation that I wanted to attach here. For some reason, part of some of my slides are missing. And I was sitting here trying to put them back in there. But in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see it. Hold on, I'm trying to get down to the bottom here so I can put it in PowerPoint. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Oops, I didn't want that.
Oh, I think you have the closed captioning on.
That's what I was trying to, oh, is that better? Let me take that off because I don't want that. The closed caption, I have nothing. Is that gone now?
I think so.
The closed caption portion.
It seems to be gone, yes.
Okay. All right. So today I'm going to present to you Harriet Tubman in this Zoom presentation. And so we're celebrating Black History Month. And I do have Harriet Tubman here in the front, but I do have some other slides of other people that I wanted to present. But Harriet Tubman, we're told she was born in 1820, that's family, but other people say 1822. So we're giving that range of 1820 to 1822. Some have her born even as early as 1815, which I don't think that's correct. But that's not what we were told. So who was this woman, Harriet Tubman? She was born into slavery in Maryland. Harriet Tubman escaped to freedom in the North in 1849. That was in December 6th. That is another day that we celebrate, and it's called Harriet Tubman Day. Harriet Tubman Day is also the day that she passed away, which was March 10th, 1913. So there's a lot of history in my family, which goes back all the way up to 1700s. We were able to track all of that. So I'm not going to read everything verbatim because I know there are people that would like to have questions. These are some of the other historical people that we celebrate in different ways. There's Martin Luther King, of course, my great aunt. There is also Rosa Parks, and there's Malcolm X. There is, oh geez, how come I just lost my train of thought there? The African president. Yes, there is also the president of the African churches, but these are some of the people that kind of stood out that are not on there. Now, Rosa Parks there. Martin Luther King is on that slide, but I feel that our first Black president should be on there, as well as the first Black woman that ran for presidency, and that was Shirley Chisholm. She changed her name, but she should be on there as well. So what I was trying to bring to the forefront is the fact that there's a lot of history in our Black culture that has not been recognized. And we need to continue making sure that that legacy continues through all of them, because if our young children don't know where they came from, they really won't know where they're going. So they need to know the history and how we got here. And one of the things that I am real concerned about is that critical theory, I don't say it, the critical history that is important to all of us. This here is my grandpa. my grandma. And these are all people who are sitting right at Harriet Tubman's home in Auburn, New York. There's where we're from. But it's important to me that everyone knows everything that Harriet Tubman did during her lifetime. She was not just a slave or a person that got away from all of this slavery, but it was also, she was a spy. This is something we celebrate as well. This is Harriet Tubman Day on March 10th. That's the day that she died. However, some people say that she died 2 days later. Well, that's not true. March 12th is not the day that she passed away in 1913. Every single year, what we do is we get a proclamation from the governor. And this time, I think last year it was Governor Kemp. This year we did the same thing to get and mark that day as Harriet Tubman Day. These are just some of the pictures that are in our archives. This is Harriet Tubman in at different ages. This is her when she was in her 40s. This one here in the middle, she was in her 20s. She was at 26. And this one here, she was a little bit older, I think 48. But these are some of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of. One of the things that we're doing now, and the reason why we're doing this is because of illiteracy. And this is something that Harriet Tubman said some time ago. I did not take up this work for my own benefit, but those who need help, she said humbly that day. The work is now well started, and I know God will raise up others to take care of the future. All I ask is united effort, for united we stand, divided we fall. And this was where in the Auburn, New York Citizen newspaper. And so I have today, the Harriet Tubman Learning Center is making that future. We are making every attempt to make sure that her legacy continues. And with everyone's help, we need to make sure that our children are reading way beyond 4th grade level. I have had children coming to the Learning Center who are 17, 18 years old and cannot read a lick. They want jobs. They have graduated. They've been passed on in school, but they can't read. They can read words, but not with the full understanding of comprehension. That's important. That is so important. They can't fill out an application because they don't understand everything that's on there. So we have helped them complete applications for job readiness. And before I go too far, before I show you some of the pictures what we're doing at the Learning Center, I can take questions, and I'm not looking right now, but there's something in the chat box. Yep. Someone told me, Nelson Mandela. The only reason why I did not have all of my notes in the same place. And when I got down here, my whole presentation disappeared. So I was sitting here wondering where did it go. It went to the cloud. And I'm a little bit older. So I'm like, where is it at? What cloud are you talking about? But anyways, that was my daughter who set that up. But anyways, I still have all that information. In the meantime, my apologies. Getting back on here. I guess if you want to type a question. Someone just wrote, why the confusion over the date of her death? Well, in Auburn, the confusion had to be with when she passed away. A lot of people were not aware of it. And so in the newspaper in Auburn, it does have March 10th, but others didn't find out about it until a few days later. And so some were saying, oh, she just died 2 days ago. That's not what we were told. My grandparents knew Harriet Tubman. My great grandmother was one of Harriet Tubman's favorite nieces. And her name is Mary, and she is also mentioned in Harriet Tubman's will. However, because she couldn't read, the illiteracy part of her would sign things with an X and not know exactly what she was signing, believing what she was told. And so she lost her property. It was sold. And the more I think about how she was treated because she couldn't read, that was one of the reasons why HTLC was so important today, because we still have that same problem now. These are some of my classrooms. We only had one classroom, and we had a wait list that was so long that, and we were very diverse. In our classrooms, we did the robotics, but we also, there's some of these children that had learning disabilities, PTSD. Some of these children have been abused. Some of them, of course, in underserved communities. We had these three boys back here. I don't know if you can see me, my pointer. They did not get along at all, but they wanted to be leaders. So one of the things that we did with these three boys, we made them work together. They built a raft. We went to Home Depot, all of us, and we purchased wood, and they had to pound nails together. They had to do it as a team. And after that, they became really good friends. That was one of the things that was a miracle, actually, because they could not even say one word to each other without yelling, screaming, and pushing. And they were at a point where they were going to be removed completely if they couldn't get along, and they didn't want that. So here we've taken the young kids to the museum. We've taken them to the grand opening of a courthouse in Cartersville. And when we went there, we had 3 busloads of kids. That 3 busloads was a total of 4 different groups working together with these kids. We took them, and then and this was in Georgia. We had all of these children in this room here. All of them were listening to this judge, Judge Melton. And he was telling these young children about how he decides on how children are judged. He's been in front of a lot of children, and it depends on whether he's going to send them to jail for like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or even years. And it's based on their attitude when they come in front of him. So it's always important to know that when you go to a judge, you got to be the best that you can ever be. Here, these boys went to another program where they needed a mentor. These boys, you can tell with their arms closed and everything, they are listening. But we had an engineer, one of my nephews, an engineer. And these are just pictures of them working together, doing the robotics, doing the reading, everything. And we also had Harriet Tubman, well, not Harriet, but we called them Tubman batteries, that we were earning money so we can buy a van. And it was a great time for them. But we also have land that was donated. We have a deed to 2 acres of land in Tennessee. It's in the mountains. And so this was one of our trips that we took them on trucks going up the road here. And here we have, it's not built yet, but that's our dream, the Harriet Tubman Mountain Retreat. So a lot of these kids need to get away, and we have mentors that work with them. This is Auburn, New York, where the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged. This is her, just a picture of her gravestone. So this is her home. This is where we would go and visit. It's now open to the public. It's a national park now. And these are some of the homes that are on that land. I was just there in September, just this past September. And we had some pictures taken, and very beautiful land. These are just some of these statues of her in different cities. One of these statues that it travels, this is the one that travels. And it will be in Auburn, New York, when we go for a family reunion. Now, this is going to be strange because we're going to be meeting other family members born to Harriet Tubman's sisters and brothers, which we've never met. So there is family members in Maryland, there's in Jersey, there's Florida, New York, of course, and then other states. So it's going to be about 200 of us coming together as descendants of Harriet Tubman. First time ever celebrating the 200th bicentennial. So we're not going to do these ones here. I'm not going to do these because it's, no, it's not something that, I mean, I don't really know who all are on, and I do that based on age, because the Elmina Castle in Ghana is a picture of some of the travesties that some of the slaves went through. And so I'm holding out on that one, and we'll see later maybe, but let me know if you have any questions. It's hard to not see hands raising or.
Rita, I'll monitor the chat.
Okay. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was some of the Black history in America. And it goes back to the, okay, this is not letting me close out this. I want to close this out because you'll see some of the pictures that I wanted to show, but I don't like showing that without knowing who's on this call. But my question to you is, I just stopped sharing my screen only because I'm having a little technical issues with my screen. Does anyone know what was Harriet Tubman's role in the Civil War? And what I was hoping I would see their faces, because I was going to send pictures of Harriet Tubman to you or to them with their address if they got it right. I always play those little games and everything.
And we do have a list of participants.
Okay. Does anyone know, without Googling the answer, what was her role in the Civil War? Yeah, she was a spy. There were, add some more to it. There was her role was very big. It was humongous. And Susan, that's correct. She was a spy. I don't know about that. I don't think that she shared incorrect info to mislead. She reported back to a general, and she would be in a lot of trouble if she passed on misinformation. Now, when she was out on her own, she gave misinformation. But while she was in the Civil War, as a spy, she had to tell the truth, because otherwise it would lead to death of others. Yes, that's right. And she was definitely a spy. She was a scout. She was a nurse. She helped heal a lot of the wounded soldiers, many that thought they were going to die because they were injured, but she made concoctions out of herbs and things that allowed her to help save a lot of the wounded soldiers. Okay. Back in the day, they had like what you would call a bounty on her head. I don't know if anyone has read that, but some of them say there was like $40,000. Well, back in the 1800s, $40,000 was, it is a myth. I think the most was maybe $300, but a lot of times people will put different amounts on there currently, but there was no bounty in the amount of $40,000 on her head. That's a myth. Does anyone know how Harriet Tubman let slaves know of her plans when she was coming back to help others? What did she do? She was illiterate. She could not read. So at that time, what did she do when she wanted to communicate to others? Well, they use lights and quilts, but one of the things that she would do is she would sing. She would sing certain songs that would have certain codes in the songs. One of them was "Go Down, Moses, Go Way Down" to Egypt land. They had a place that they would call there. That's where they would meet up. There were other songs that she would sing, "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," that had codes in it as well. Even when it was, if someone was watching or someone was listening, and there were certain nights that they would only leave. They would leave on Saturday nights or Sunday nights when no one's really working. Most of the people were drinking, masters were drinking and so forth, so they could leave. And then they couldn't make any announcements until that Monday. So they would already have some time to leave without getting caught. But yeah, they did use lights and quilts. And the Quakers, they were the ones that helped Harriet Tubman escape going through the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was not an actual railroad. And I know there were some people who believed that it was a railroad, with tracks, train tracks, but it's not. It was more of a going from one house to another, like safe houses. They would go from one house to another. One of the questions, one of the things that was read in my bio, we talked about Harriet Tubman, and it was, what was Harriet Tubman's original name? Does anyone remember that?
A lot of these questions are answered in my blog that I posted this afternoon.
Exactly. They can go back and get it. It's okay. They don't have to, well, let me see if I remember. It's just a matter of keeping I just never did a webinar where no one had an opportunity to speak, or you don't see the faces. So it is a little confusing.
I think we have an answer. I think we have an answer.
Ah, yes. The first person, Paige, says Araminta, Minty, Ross, exactly. And why, does anyone know why she changed her name to Harriet? Because you may not know this, but that was her mother's name. And they called her mother Rit, R-I-T. So I will say that she changed her name before escaping so that it would be difficult to track her. Okay, they could track Araminta Ross, but not Harriet Tubman. But she also took her husband's last name, which was Tubman. She was actually married twice. And I do have pictures of Harriet Tubman's husband, Nelson Davis. Let me see if I can find those. We had I guess the question is anyone interested in seeing some of those? I have pictures of her will. I have pictures of her marriage certificate that are just copies. They're not originals, but we're not even allowed to show originals. Okay. I hear someone say definitely. I will pull them up. In the meantime, I'm gonna keep talking. Trying to pull that information up and then trying to share it on the same screen. My daughter's going to help me get that because it's really a beautiful presentation. Okay, got it. Okay, does anyone see this?
Yes, yes, I can see it.
Okay. This is Harriet Tubman and her second husband, Nelson Davis. Now, there are no pictures of Harriet Tubman with her first husband, because back then he was a free man and she was not. This shows the death certificate of Nelson Davis. And then this one here in the middle is the marriage certificate between Harriet Tubman and her husband, Nelson. Here we have a copy of her will and also the death certificate of Harriet Tubman. And this is part of her funeral here in Auburn. This is Anne Marie Ross Stewart. This is Harriet Tubman's niece. She was married to Thomas Elliott, who happens to be, these two are the parents of my grandmother. So you have to remember, Harriet Tubman's been, it's 200 years we're celebrating since her birth. So in those 200 years, a lot has taken place. These are just pictures of Harriet Tubman. These are just things that I took from my mother's photographs before my mother passed away. And I have already showed you these pictures, but these are Harriet Tubman's family. This is not a good picture. A lot of them are not clear, but it's Harriet is the one standing here with a hat. These are her parents sitting over here. Her father, and this is their adopted daughter, Gertie. Now, she never had any children because of the head injury. I don't know if anyone knows about her having a head injury. Well, when she was about 12 or 13 years old, Master was trying to get her to stop a slave from running, and she stepped to the side. Instead of trying to help, she just let the slave run. And that was something about Harriet Tubman. She was not a person that did what she was told to do as a child. She was rebellious, and this is why she is who she is or was back in the day, because she just did not listen to what people told her to do, except her parents. She did what her parents told her to do, but anyone else, they could not really get her to be a slave. When she was 6, she babysat for the Broadus family, and while she's babysitting at the age of 6 for a little infant, she fell asleep and the baby started crying. Her job was not to let the baby cry. Well, baby's going to do what a baby does, but she fell asleep too while the baby slept, while the baby was crying, and the mistress wanted to spank her. What 6-year-old knows how to take care of a baby? Who would put a baby in a 6-year-old's hand? That's what they did, and they tried to spank her, but she got away. She ran and got away. And ever since then, they told her that she was no good for anything. But look where she ended up. She ended up being an iconic woman. This is another picture of Nelson Davis, and it's a record of the death. Here is the last will and testament. Of course, it is this is one of the real ones. This one happens to be in a case, so I couldn't take it out, but I did get a picture of it. But it does have Harriet Tubman, and someone signed for her. She did not sign that herself. But in it, it does list, let me see if I can make it over. It does, no. I think when I was trying to take the picture, it did get my shadow. Anyway, it has my great-great-grandmother, Marietta, listed in this will. So she did leave things behind, but nothing was worth anything. There was no, I guess there's no value to it. This is the best way to put it. She had the will, but it certainly meant a lot to the people that were left in it, their names in it, but there was no property left. It is now owned by AME Church in Auburn, New York. That land is now the church that she attended. The land that she had is now a national park. Same thing in Maryland. I believe there is, it's still being worked on, the Harriet Tubman Park in Maryland, as well as Auburn, New York. Those are the two places where she lived. Harriet Tubman lived in Auburn, New York for 50+ years. Okay. Yes, I can. I was asked if I was related to Gertie, and that answer is no, because that was an adopted child. It was one of the persons that Nelson Davis knew, who the child was basically abandoned. And so Harriet Tubman did take the child and adopted her. Now, the problem is no one knows where Gertie is. No one knows. And that's the same thing back then. A lot of her sisters, no one knows where they are either, or where they ended up. Her second husband, that relationship, her second husband died. He had polio. Nelson Davis died, and that's how that relationship ended. And yeah, she was beaten by her, the mistress. She wanted to sleep, and she wanted a 6-year-old to take care of the babies. Okay, so you want me to talk about the river raid that freed 700+ slaves? That by itself is definitely worth, I'm going to pull up my file for that, and I can give you all the details on that. Okay, so on that, that included John Brown, that raid, as well as Harriet Tubman. Now, Harriet Tubman did not make it to that raid. John Brown was there, and he ended up getting captured and killed. But Harriet Tubman had what you would call those episodes of falling asleep, and she did not show up at the river raid. So let me just tell you some of the things that happened on that raid. they had heard there was going to be an attack. There was going to be an attack. And so Harriet Tubman was going to be there. So at the same time, going to that attack, it's called the Kombahi River Raid. Okay, I have all my information. So it was in June 1863 that led about 150 Black Union soldiers. They were all part of what you call the United States 2nd South Carolina Volunteers. And it's in the Kombahi River, and there's where the raid. And it liberated more than 700 enslaved people. They often called Tubman as the Moses of her people. She was a former slave. By then, she was already free when that took place, because that happened in 1863. Remember, she escaped in 1849. So with Harriet Tubman, she worked mainly through the Underground Railroad, and that also took place in the 1800s, 1850, just a year after she was free. And so by 1862, she left her home in Auburn, New York, and she wanted to work in the Union that was occupied in Hilton Head near South Carolina as a nurse and spy. And that was during the Civil War. But at the same time, in 1863, Colonel Montgomery asked her to lead a secret military mission against the Confederates in South Carolina. Well, she did that. In the meantime, 3 federal gunboats set sail from Beaufort, South Carolina, and I'll be going to Beaufort for the first time in July to go through all of those areas, and that's including the Kombahi River, and we're going to be touring all of that. Tubman had gained all this information about locations where torpedoes and the river from slaves who are willing to trade information for freedom. So what happened was a lot of people were selling slaves, and then she was buying, well, not her, but the traders, they were buying the slaves as well as setting them up to become military personnel. In the meantime, Harriet Tubman's job was to steer the ships away from any danger, which she was able to do, but the problem is John Brown and Harriet Tubman, they missed each other. Harriet fell asleep, like I said, and she did not make it to the raid. And so John Brown ended up getting killed. Many slaves were killed, but then hundreds of slaves, including women and children, were able to escape. But I'm not sure exactly what else, I mean, for what I've been told as growing up, that was a story that was given to me and told to me about the river raid. But there were about 700 slaves who still were able to be freed, and Harriet Tubman was responsible for that freedom. Let's see, is there any more? Is there anything else about that river raid that I probably can give you more information, but the story that we were given is the same, that it is an awesome thing, because Harriet Tubman, being a woman, a female who was, I could never be her. I could never be her. She walked miles, and I know it was about 90 miles from Maryland to Philadelphia, and she walked that several times. And I think it took about 2 to 3 months for her to do that trip, because they didn't have roads like we have. They didn't have, I mean, she had to go in the back road through the woods and the trees, and yeah. I just don't know how she did it. Harriet Tubman, she went through Canada, but her main home was in Auburn, New York. After she left Maryland, she lived in Auburn for about 52 years before she passed away. She did stop in there. She didn't actually live. She might be there maybe 2-3 weeks before she would get back on the road, but she never used that as an address. Her main thing was she was giving land in Auburn, New York, and that was where she lived. Her parents, she got her parents there as well. And most of the pictures that we see are pictures of her in Auburn at the Harriet Tubman home for the aged as well. And her parents had gotten older. And so she was taking care of them, but then she couldn't take care of them because she didn't have the money. So there was a book that was written by Sarah Bradford, and that book was supposed to help Harriet Tubman raise money to take care of the people that she was taking care of at the home. But it did not bring in enough money. You know, in the 1800s, buying a book probably was only a quarter, if that. And the book is about 50 pages. It's not a big book. I do have that book also. But it basically is Harriet Tubman's story being told to Sarah Bradford at the time while she was still alive. There is some other books out there. I don't really, the one Kate Larson has written, she is more current, and based on her research, she kind of minimized a lot of the things that Harriet Tubman did. One of them was, she said that Harriet Tubman only made 7 trips. Well, according to the book that Harriet Tubman wrote or co-wrote with Sarah, she made about 19 trips. Now, I look at it as she may not made 19 trips from Maryland to Auburn, but she made different stops on her way. So as far as she's concerned, as many times as she made it to Philadelphia, or is it how many times did she make it to Auburn? So there were many trips that she made, but the count is inaccurate. And then there was another one that, another story that was told is that Harriet Tubman couldn't have made the trips because she went to the records. She went to like a city hall and got records. And that's why she was able to say that was only 7 trips. But being a slave, you're not going to announce I'm running away. And you're not going to go and put it on record that you're running away. So I don't know where she got that information from, but my mother, my aunts, everyone that I've talked to about it, they were all either given the book by Kate Larson, or they purchased the book and they only read the first 2 chapters because, you know, they're going by all the stories they've been told as a child. And the stories that I'm telling are based on what I was told, not only as a child, but as I got older. I still have one relative. She's the oldest living descendant of Harriet Tubman now. She's 94. And she's my mother's sister, only living sister now. My mother passed away 2 years ago. And Aunt Pauline being 94, my mother was only 87. So Aunt Pauline she's part of the Learning Center. She comes in and talks to the kids. But since COVID, we're open, we're closed, we're open, we're closed. And a lot of it is because parents aren't sending their kids out in groups. And then with the schools, Zoom isn't working because the kids were already doing Zoom at home for classes. They're so bored. So we're working on getting our learning centers back up and running. And as soon as we get the funding, as well as getting the buildings to put them in. We were renting the spot that we had, and it was just gruesome because we had many kids on our list, but we couldn't accommodate them all. And we've taken them on trips. You saw all the pictures that we've done. Those are some of the things that we've done working with them. A lot of the students were unable to read properly. So instead of us giving them a early reading book, we started with a STEM. We had them work on a robot. They built a robot, and we had robot kits, but they had to follow the instructions. And that's how we got them back up to reading, because they had to fully understand what they're reading and get them to comprehend of what they're reading. So we gave them the kits. All of them had cell phones. Come on now. These days, can you imagine us growing up without having a cell phone? But they all had cell phones, and all they did was, once they were able to build a robot, they would be able to maneuver the robots using their cell phone, downloading a specific app that was geared toward that robot. And everyone had their own. They had to buy their own kits and everything, but they had their own, and they would have races. They would teach the robot to do certain things, but that's how we got them back up to reading. And it started with following the instructions and understanding what a wire coding meant. Doing, what does this wire do? What does that wire do? Well, that's how we got them back up and running. And then their grades changed in school. Most of the students that came to us were referred by the children's social worker at the school. I would get calls. We need to have him come and be a part of your program. Or kids were going to fail 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, because they're not doing the work. So we had stipulations. In order for them to join our program, they had to do certain things. And if they weren't going to follow those instructions, then they had to leave, because there were other kids waiting to get in. But that's how we ran the Harriet Tubman Learning Center. And because of her illiteracy, we just could not stand to sit back and watch other kids in this current time. How is it that they are not able to read? It's just mind-boggling watching these kids fail after, one after another, until they come to the Learning Center. How we just took one-on-one. We did, some of them had math. We did mentoring. We had someone that knew how to build homemade robots, and you got their attention. That's all you need. You get their attention and let them know that they care. And that's how we were able to build our group of kids. And it was basically word of mouth. Can I bring a friend? Well, we don't have any space until we get a bigger place. So right now we are looking at opening up 3 other learning centers. One there in Connecticut, which is either Stratford. We were looking at Bridgeport, Connecticut. Then there's going to be one in DC. And then another one, the last one, of course, we need one in Auburn, New York. So we have people out there scouting, doing what Harriet Tubman did, looking for funding and looking for buildings so we can get these things. We want to have the learning centers nationwide because in the underserved communities, they're needed.
I thank you so much, Rita Daniels. Are there any other questions? And please put them in the chat. And then we're going to be wrapping up because we're getting close to our ending time. Here's a question in the chat. It says, this was very informative. Thank you for sharing and all the work you're doing to keep family Harriet Tubman's legacy alive.
Thank you so much. That we appreciate that. We just don't want her legacy to, there's a lot of Harriet Tubman museums. There's Harriet Tubman stores and, all of these things, but none of them are really tied in with an actual descendant of Harriet Tubman. So we started this on our own. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we do take donations. If anyone ever wants to donate to the Learning Center, they can go to the website, harriettubmanlearningcenter.org, and see some of the work that we have started. And there's a lot more that needs to be done, but we certainly do appreciate what we're doing. We love it. The kids, well, we do feed them. The first thing that we do is when they come is we make sure that they have a full stomach. And these kids, when I talk about them, it's just so much love that we have for them. Even the troubled ones, even the ones that come with trouble, there's always some underlying reason why they're like that. But we make sure we feed them, and they would always take food home. They say, well, I haven't eaten since Tuesday. Or I had food, but I gave it to my sister. My mother doesn't have any money to buy food. So that when people know that we're working with underserved, they're really underserved.
We have another,
give them back. Yes, another one.
Yes, we have 2 more comments. Someone else said very impressive. And someone else said, love that you continue to lead people to a better life the same way that Harriet Tubman, did. Amazing. And thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. And I don't try, I'm just going to say this. I don't try to be this worldwide speaker, someone that can do a lot of things. I just am myself. And I come to you and I bring to you my story, what I've been told, what things have been passed on to me that I can pass on to others. I'm getting better at it, but I'm just here with the truth. And I've always told the truth will set you free. But I enjoyed this, thoroughly enjoyed this. And I am really interested in your Get Lit program. making sure that the reading initiatives that you have are incorporated. I'm going to make sure that I incorporate some of those into what we're doing, because our goal is to open a pre-K. The pre-K is necessary because when you get them at an early age, their lives make a difference. My grandson is now 19, but at the age of 2.5, I taught him how to read. And he had cousins in the same age. Actually, they were 2 and 3 years older than him. And I took them all to get a Mother's Day card for their mothers, all of them. And not thinking, I said, you can, whatever card you get, you can get whatever card you want as long as you can read it. So my grandson gets one that has a lot of words on it, and the other two that get something that only had Happy Mother's Day on it. And I told him, my grandson, he had to read it, and he's 3 years old. Now he had a speech slur, well, not a slur, but his speech was not clear, but you knew what he was saying. And he was able to read it, and they were like, oh my gosh, how come he knows how to read? Who taught him how to read? I had my own design reading program. He's 19 now, and he's in college now, going to Georgia State. But that's why I believe catching these children at an early age is better than waiting till they're 6 years old, or and then, you know, their environment does make a difference. Whatever their environment, if they're listening to movies and watching all the, or even playing the wrong games, then guess what? You're going to get out of it what you give them. That's what you teach them. So I have rules, and those rules, I tell you, they have to sign rules and make sure that they're doing exactly what we ask them to do. But it's an after-school program, and I just hope that there's some takeaways for all of you when it comes to working with young children, especially the underserved. The underserved are not privileged like a lot of what sometimes people think. A lot of kids are hiding behind something, maybe a facade of some sort. But I love it. Anyways, then I want to thank you, the Richmond Public Library, you as well, Miss Jones, Jenkins. So yeah, I certainly do appreciate everything for having me, and I'm just telling my story. This is where we are. So I can just say thank you for having me, and we look forward to doing some other things with you as well.
Thank you. Yes, I'm looking forward to it too. One last comment. Thank you. Keep the good work up. It's in your legacy. And I think that's a great note to end on. Yes. So
well,
we
thank
will
you so
keep in
much.
touch. And
yes.
In fact, I'll probably be in touch with you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And I really appreciate your sharing your family legacy, the legacy of such a great woman, Harriet Tubman.
Yes, and I never had a chance to mention the $20 bill, but
right. Well, we've got 5 minutes.
I'm good. The $20 bill is still in being worked on with the new President Biden. It was being kicked to the curb, and I was told that it won't be until 2026 when it was under President Trump. And one of the things they were talking about, and the reason why it was being kicked over to 20, it wasn't going to happen until Donald Trump was going to be out of office. Well, President Biden, and then I was working with Senator Hines and, oh, I'm sorry, Senator Blumenthal and Congressman Hines out of Connecticut, and they are pushing it. We've got a lot of people who are still pushing, making sure that she's on the $20 bill. A lot of us have mixed feelings about the $20 bill, her being on it, but that's not my call. If she's going to be on it, then I welcome it.
Very good, very good.
We don't know when it's going to happen, but they're already looking at putting, what is her name on the quarter? Maya Angelou. And that's all new. But in the meantime, we just keep our hands, things are just out of our control. There's nothing that we can do about it. If it happens, it happens. And we'd love to see it happen. But yes. So it's important to keep her legacy moving because we want her to be recognized by not just a few, but many.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, we certainly have enjoyed having you speak with us here in Richmond. And
Thank you.
I've been really inspired by Harriet Tubman's legacy, by the tremendous acts of courage that she did on behalf of not just the enslaved people, but all people. And I really do appreciate your sharing with us. And we hope perhaps you can come back again and tell us some more of the fascinating exploits that your great aunt did. Yes, it's just so amazing. And we thank you very much. And I'd like to say good night on behalf of the Richmond Public Library.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your invitation. I've got like 5 other invitations coming up. I think I mentioned I'm going to go to Beaufort in July. I'm going to Huntsville in June, Auburn in July. So there's a lot that's coming up. And then we've got March 10th. Well, we do have February 27th, end of this month, where we're doing our Black History celebration on Harriet Tubman, and we'd love to have you come and be a part. It's going to be Zoom.
Yes, please.
It'll be Zoom where,
yeah,
and anyone that wants to join, they can. And then we're going to also do a Harriet Tubman Day, which is March 10th. And so that is different. We actually have people who come in and sing and they tell their stories. And I have if Aunt Pauline is able, we have the oldest living descendant. She's involved. So there's a lot that's going to be taking place.
Great, great. Now, how can we get in touch with you or in touch with the Harriet Tubman Learning Center?
Well, you're going to call me because right now the Learning Center we had to close the doors again. We're waiting to get reopened. As soon as we get the funding to open up the door, we found a building. We just need to make sure that we are able to sustain a building. We don't want to just have one. We're looking for it to be donated and they can write it off as a 501c3 write-off. So yes, Paige, please share the information for the upcoming events. And I'll send you the flyers once I get the one for Black History Month. I think it's either a Saturday or Sunday. I have not received everything yet. I have so many people working on stuff. It's crazy, but yes.
Okay, great. So I'll be in touch with everybody.
Yes.
And
yes.
Until then, everyone take care.
And thank you for having me again. Thank you. And like you said, we'll talk.
Okay, great.
All righty. All right.
Good night.
Have
Good night,
a good
everyone.
day. Bye-bye.